Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Stock Car Facts. We were knocking around one day in one of our old Grand National scenes and ran across Kyle Petty's entries of Diary of a Rookie from the 1980 season. So, we're going to present a few of these to you, and we found the best ones, well, we thought, and we're going to read some excerpts from them right here. Here's the first entry at the beginning of the 1980 season, and this was titled Spur of the Moment. Most people are going to have a hard time believing this, but I never did have any plans when I was growing up and becoming a race car driver, like my dad or even my grandfather Lee. I mean, it never even occurred to me. When I was in high school, I was too busy doing other things, stuff normal kids were doing. I played a lot of football and basketball, and I just kind of breezed through like most everybody else, I guess. Really, if I had a hobby, it was music. Stock car racing has been a way of life in my family for more years than I've been around. But it was something I never even thought about. I didn't even start going to races until my sophomore year in high school, and even then, it was usually during the summer months. After I graduated from good old Randleman High, I'd gone to basketball school at the University of Georgia and the football school at Duke, and I was sort of talking to a few of the smaller colleges that were close to home. Then one day I just decided that somebody else could have those scholarships beside me. I wish you could have seen my daddy. I walked into his office, and being very serious, I told him I decided to drive a race car. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision. He looked up, and he was very serious too, and asked me if I wanted to start at Caraway or maybe some other little track near home. I told him Daytona was coming up pretty soon, and that's where I wanted to start. He went sky high. Nobody in the Petty family has ever been at a loss for words, but he was speechless. After talking for a while, he finally cracked a smile and said, "Well, I guess we'll just have to drag out one of those raggedy old Dodge Magnums and get it ready for Daytona, 1979. I made the decision to become a race car driver, and my dad made the decision that I would have to work like one. I won that ARCA race and drove in a few cup races too. But during the week, I worked in the shop and on the weekends at the racetrack, and things got pretty wild as we chipped away at Darrell Waltrip's lead near the end of the season. And let me tell you something. It was a proud bunch of folks that rolled back into that shop after the Ontario race. And 1979 was the first year I was really serious about racing, so I had to absorb a lot in a hurry because there was so much to learn. I guess I had always taken it for granted, and that season taught me one thing. Richard Petty is one heck of a race car driver. He's the champ in my book. Daytona. Hey, it's a whole new ball game this time. None of that ARCA racing. This is the big one, the Daytona 500. I guess if you're going to start your rookie year in Grand National racing, you might as well start at the top, live TV and all. In the last few weeks, I've watched the videotape of last year's Daytona 500 at least 30 times. It won't make me go any faster, but I've sure learned who to stay away from in certain situations. Of course, there are probably a lot of guys who are thinking they might be better off to stay away from me too. I finally got in the race car by myself, and I started thinking, hey, this isn't so bad. It's fun the first couple of laps I made at speed. I did feel sort of funny though. The gravity or G-forces, I guess, made the car feel odd in the turns, and the longer you run, the more comfortable you feel, and that's when I started thinking about getting faster. The better the car felt, the faster I wanted to go. I guess I just caught up with the car and was doing okay because the guys on the crew and my dad seemed satisfied. As far as the qualifier, I tried to find a safe place to run. Then we saw the smoke and the hole closed up, and I had nowhere to go, and that was it for my Daytona effort. Atlanta and Rockingham. I had a teacher once who used to always say, "You learn something new every day." And at Rockingham, I learned the importance of taking care of a race car, or else. And in Atlanta, I witnessed a classic example of how to be patient, and that was a valuable lesson. In the first place, the Rockingham race was particularly important to me because they told me back in the shop before we left that if I wrecked the car in that race, There was no telling when I'd race again, because that was the only car I had. You've got to remember two key things. First, I had a car totally wiped out in the qualifying race at Daytona. And second, Petty Engineering has to take care of the main driver on the STP team before they get down to the junior member of the squad. That's me. Atlanta was different, even though the rain cheated everybody out of practice for 2 days. I felt comfortable in the race car almost as soon as the Atlanta 500 started. Of course, I remembered a lot from running there last fall, and that experience helped. I still have them in memories of that race last year. My dad and Donnie Allison spent a lot of time talking to me about running the Atlanta track, and especially how to get into the pits. But that's another story. Coming into the pits in Atlanta is a real thrill. I was just fortunate they had told me to watch it. Anyway, the car felt super in Atlanta, and I wasn't disappointed with finishing 14th. What I learned at Rockingham in Atlanta is something that's new to me, and I guess something that's very important to anybody who wants to make it in this business, and that's taking care of your equipment and being patient. You've got to endure before you can ever even think of being successful. After the race, someone asked me if I was tired, and I never felt anything in a race car that you could relate to being physically tired. The Long Beach Pro. One afternoon, I'm shooting basketball with some guys behind a barn, and the next afternoon, I'm hanging out with Gene Hackman, Paul Williams, Lynn Swan, Bruce Jenner, and James Brolin, just to name a few, at a Grand Prix pre-race bash in Southern California. Pretty neat, huh? Chris Pook, the guy who promotes the Long Beach Grand Prix, came up to me in the garage in Riverside in January and asked if I'd be interested in the Toyota Celebrity Race. Then he called later and invited me to be one of the pros, but I told him I wanted to be one of the celebrities since they get a head start, but I was only kidding. Let me tell you something. Southern California is about as far removed as you can get from level cross. Everybody looks and talks different. I bumped into Neil Bondin on Friday morning there because he was also running in the race, and we both sort of looked at each other and said, "Wow, there's a familiar face." The Toyota deal was definitely a lot of fun. They rolled 20 brand new cars out, and we all drew numbers to see which one we would get to drive. And we all went out in the first practice session Friday afternoon and wiped out about 5 new ones. It was wild when the race started Saturday. They let the celebrities take off first, and Gene Hackman was the best driver in the bunch. 2 greats, Parnelli Jones and Dan Gurney, were in the front row in our pro group, and Neil and I were right behind in the second row. If you crashed in your race, they just left your car out where it wrecked. Parnelli finally won the race, and Hackman finished second. I raced a long time with Jenner, but he passed me and finished third. Then right near the end, Rick Mears passed me too, so I finished fifth. Hey, I was glad I was able to finish in one piece. Now I'm serious. I've noticed something about myself lately. I'm a lot more serious about my racing career now than I was when the season started. Don't get me wrong, I didn't jump into a race car to just have fun. I had made up my mind last year that racing was what I was going to do. And now that we've completed the first half of the season, I feel even stronger about it and making the right decision. I guess when I say I'm more serious, I'm really saying that I'm paying even more attention to all the little details that contribute to having a good race. I'm paying more attention to the garage area, the little things like everyone's moves and styles when we're in a race. What a difference a year makes. My race car was a banged up mess back in the shop in 1979, and there I was on my dad's pits watching him race to a second place finish in the World 600. But not this time. I was right in the middle of the whole thing. I was mighty glad to be in 7th place when the race was over, and it was also the first time I had won the Champion Spark Plug Rookie of the Race, so it was icing on the cake. And we almost missed this race. It was so close I don't even want to think about it. It all started when I wrecked at Dover and wiped the race car out. Fortunately, we had just bought one of Joe Milliken's Chevys from Mr. L.G. DeWitt when he sold his race team. Nobody had even so much as touched the car. We had 3 weeks' work on it to do in 3 days. It was my crew chief, Greg Barnacle, Ray Hudson, Robert Pemberton, and me. Things were happening so fast, we didn't even know if we were doing them right or not. We had to take every single thing off the car just to make sure it was okay. We went through everything, making sure nothing was cracked or broken. We got back from Dover at 5 o'clock Monday morning, grabbed 2 hours of sleep, then I went to work at the shop, worked almost 14 hours straight, and it still had 72 on the door. Went back to work at 7 o'clock Tuesday morning, knocked off at 8 that night. Once their Monday started at 7 again and finished at 11:15 Wednesday night. We dragged out of the shop at 5 and headed for Charlotte. The best thing that happened when we got to Charlotte was that we were able to qualify Thursday. We were supposed to get there on Tuesday, so we were 2 days behind. But after we qualified, everything worked out fine. The car didn't run bad once the race started, but it didn't run all that good either. I guess the best thing was that I was real consistent and my lap times were always about the same. Everybody had a busy day during the race. I was so close to Ty Scott when he wrecked, I think I closed my eyes. Then later, when Harry Gant's tire came off, I thought I was going to land right in the middle of my hood. I don't know how I missed it. I also got a good view of the wreck when Earnhardt, Pearson, and Allison tangled as I was coming off of 3 when they wrecked in turn 4. I looked like I'd just walked off the set of MASH. Rubber gloves, cloth hat, suit, even those little booty things that cover your feet. It could have been Dr. Petty, but it wasn't. It was me. I honestly didn't think I could do it when the whole idea came up, but I'm glad I did. We left the house at about 9:30 in the morning, had plenty of time to get organized at the hospital, and at about 3 o'clock I was a papa. With the baby and the open house we have every summer at Petty Engineering, it's been pretty busy around here, and I've hardly thought about racing. Heading down the stretch. I'd never seen everybody at Petty Engineering so busy. I'm trying to help my daddy and his crew as much as possible. And we're already beginning to get things ready for the '81 season. And I'll tell you why I didn't race at Richmond, and that was in case my daddy needed relief after breaking his neck at Pocono. But then, near the end of the race, when he was running second, I figured he didn't need my help anyway. He might have forgot I was even there. I don't know. But it didn't matter. I'm sure I couldn't have finished any better than he did. And people don't understand. That Pocono wreck took a lot out of us, as it wiped out one of our best cars. Right now I'm working on a nagging little cold that I can't seem to get rid of, but I think I've discovered the hot tip. I'm getting ready to install one of those new mahogany California-style hot tubs. I'm building sort of a small gym and a cold cellar with a rock wall, and I'll have one of those workout gym deals, and the hot tub is in it. I might not get rid of my cold right away, but it'll be clean. Everybody seems to think we're involved in some kind of secret project these days, building a special bomb or getting ready to unload a big unknown for the 1981 season. Despite the rumor mill, we still don't know what we're going to run next year. There's a lot of testing still going on. Anyway, we've got to finish this season before we get too serious about next year. I'd like to have a good race at Ontario because STP are bringing a lot of folks to that one, and it would be nice to end the season with a good finish for our sponsors. Seems like fall for sure got here quick. The trees are already turning, and it's getting downright cold at night. Right now, when we've got some spare time, we're working on things for 1981. We don't even know what kind of car we're going to run next year. I'm not sure anyone knows. But we can try to stay ahead of the game, so we're building all the stock stuff like rear-end coolers, seats, fuel cell containers, and things like that. Getting ready for '81 is twice as much work for our STP team as it is for most operations. We've got to have 4 cars ready when we get to Daytona. 2 cars for me and my dad, and 2 short-track cars to go straight to Richmond. Right now, that's good news and Randleman for next year. Right now, the plans call for me to run all the races in '81. Maybe I ought to start thinking about Kyle Petty's Diary of a Sophomore. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, and we'll see you later in the week with a Stock Car Fact Short.